Okay, there she is. I see. I wasn't sure whether I had to.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Fine. How you doing?
Okay, Heather.
Should I bring the rest of everybody else in, Steve?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
There we go.
So it's actually 3 people, but here you go.
Oh, we have 3 more. Okay.
I'm with her.
Well,
I'm really sorry.
My original name.
Oh my God. It's the babies.
It's gonna say it's the babies.
No way. No.
We've got
The baby?
both Harveys for you joining in right now.
Oh my and
goodness.
it's both Harveys.
Who else do we have, Travis?
Oh gosh.
How's it going?
Oh my gosh.
Should I email Matt Shackman?
Is that Evan?
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi,
Hey, guys.
Jeremy.
Oh my God.
How's it going?
Is that the babies?
Yes, the
Yeah.
babies. That's so amazing.
Nice to meet you.
Right, I know.
I'm Facebook friends with you.
Yeah.
Right?
After lugging you around when you were a little baby.
Do you
Right.
remember any of it?
I don't, unfortunately. I wish I did.
You owe me money.
Ellen!
You borrowed.
There's the other one.
You borrowed $10 from
Yeah, I
me
did
once
it.
in a poker game, and
I'll play you double or nothing now. How about that?
okay.
Wow.
Hey,
How's
Brooke.
it going?
Yes.
Did anyone get a hold of Matt Shackman?
Yes. So he cannot come. He can't
Okay.
make it. I tried. I even sent him the link. Just said maybe
Oh,
if you had
okay.
20 minutes to pop on, but I did
I
reconnect
can,
with him.
I can
which was
text
awesome.
Dennis Haysbert.
I found a letter from Matt
Yeah, I
asking
know,
me to
I
write his college recommendation, which I did.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, from Yale.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I said, Mike, I knew you hated it there, but I'd really like to go.
What did you write when you wrote him his
I
letter?
found the rough draft of the letter, and I found the actual letter stuffed in a box. I'm going to send it to Matt.
You
He
really
said, "Don't
should.
worry, it'll be confidential. No one will see it." But he's probably insisting it at this.
Oh
I
my
talked
God.
about how well he mixed with adults. He didn't have to talk
Excellent.
down to him as a kid.
No, he was
That's
so.
true.
Maybe
Heidi
he'd have no
was
trouble
like that, too.
adjusting
Heidi was
to a
like
college environment.
Backwards. But
Yeah, Heidi might join in. Like we said, she's at Yellowstone right now, so they don't have a whole lot of service where they're at. But let me give you guys a quick little intro of what we do.
Okay.
So the name of the podcast is Two Guys in the Fridays, and what we do is we go back and we watch old days of TGIF exactly as it aired 30 years ago. So just a few weeks ago, we watched the season finale of Just the 10 of Us. We are now 30 years after the season finale. So every week we're going back, we're watching. Right now it's Full House, Family Matters, Just the 10 of Us, Perfect Strangers, and we're just going to keep going as long as we can keep it going. So all of you guys have been a big part of these first 43 episodes that we've done right now.
Oh, fantastic.
that's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
But everyone, we really do appreciate it. What we want to do to start off is kind of do some introductions. So I'm just going to I'm going to start off by introducing somebody. I want you to say either a memory about the show, a favorite memory, or just something that the show meant to you. We're going to start off with Bill. Bill, you can say whatever you want about the show. And then after you're done sharing whatever you want to share, then you can pick who's next up in line and introduce them. So up first,
Okay.
Bill Kirkenbauer, who played Coach Graham Lubbock.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you.
Woo!
Especially you people up there in the balcony. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so I was at home one day doing, I don't know, walking around, and the phone rang, and my wife answered it, and she said, all 3 of the producers are on the phone and they want to talk to you. And I thought, what did I do? Oh shit. I really actually thought, I'm going to tell you what went through my mind is that you were in editing, and there was a scene, and this is honest to God true. I thought, what could I have done? I thought you guys were in editing, and you were watching a scene, and I had maybe my hand down by my side like this. That's what I thought. I thought, oh, they're editing, and they saw something that, oh, Jesus, they're going to call me up and scream at me. That's what I thought. I don't know. Anyway.
Like a Jackie Mason moment.
Yeah, I was in a scene. I had my hand. I don't know. That's stuff that goes through your head. I thought, well, I knew I was in trouble. That's all I knew. They don't call me at the house, all three of them at the same time, or is in trouble.
So
And
Bill,
I said, yeah.
I don't know if did they set it up that you were on Growing Pains first, and those are the producers who called you?
Well, yeah, eventually, I mean, it was just, I was like, hello? Like, oh, what did I do? Hello? Why do I, it's like going to the principal's office and there's three principals there. That's what it was like. So I said, hello? And they said, hey, Bill, how you doing? You know, we're just over here at ABC. We just had a meeting and we're talking about the Coach Lubbock character. And would you like your own sitcom? And I thought, oh, come on, that doesn't happen. People don't call people up and say, do you want your own sitcom? And I said, sure. And they said, well, you know, we got this idea about this and you and all these kids and the thing. And I thought, okay. And they said, you know, and we'll call you, you know, in a few days. I thought, oh, okay. And then I guess my agent called. That's how it started for me. And then I remember going over to that really exclusive dining room that the Warner Brothers executives had, that only special people, and the producers were having a little lunch. It was like a really classy place, like one of those old men's clubs, out of wood on the wall. And you guys had a TV there with a recorder, and you were playing me tapes of everybody, of Jamie and Brooke and all these people. And I said, here's the people we want to, like I had a say in it, you know. It was just, here's these audition tapes, and here's this family and that. And then it was just kind of a blur after that. I remember having some lunch with Dan, with the Hollywood Reporter or Times, talking about, I don't know. It was just kind of a dream come true. And it was great. But that was how it started for me. It was, and then of course we were going to decide what we're going to talk about it. In fact, I had one of the T-shirts that had, remember you guys put out a T-shirt of all the suggestions of the names, lots of Lubbocks. I had put in Kirkenbauer half an hour. Well, I figure, you know, if Roseanne can do it, I can stuff my name in there too. And so all these names that they had, and then they called me up and said, hey, we finally settled on a name. It's just the 10 of us. And I thought, oh, I'm not sure I'm crazy about that, because I immediately.
It was supposed to be Coach. It was supposed to be.
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be Yo Coach.
Oh,
Yeah,
Coach.
but then.
The ABC had Coach in development. I actually have a copy of the budget here when the title for Warner Brothers was officially Yo Coach, but that got changed by the network.
Yeah, but I thought, oh, everybody's gonna think of, Ada's just the coach of us enough for the thing. And I gotta tell you, to this day that happened. Hey, you're the guy from the Ada's just enough of us 10. So, but that was it, you know. But it was great. So that's my memories of the birth of the show.
All right, Bill, introduce somebody else.
Well, Deb,
Deb,
my TV wife.
That's right. Will always be the only husband I didn't divorce. Yeah, I think my best memory is the entirety, the gestalt of the whole thing. I've been around a long time. I've been on a lot of sitcoms and not felt comfortable, not seeing a lot of love, not seeing a lot of sharing, you know, and I wanted to make sure that this time we'd have a real family. And I think we did. Everybody.
Oh, I know we did.
We truly did care about each other. There were never any fights, no anybody trying to get something over on somebody else or thinking their part wasn't big enough or anything like that. And we treated all of our guest stars as if they were guests in our home. And everybody, I mean, our cameramen were our friends. You know, our DP, George Dibby.
Sexy.
Love him. Sexy. Moved on away from that now, Sexy. He didn't know anybody's name, so he just called him Sexy. Everybody was Sexy. I said, George, if I married you, my name would be Debbie Dibby. But I just remember it was a joy to go to work every day. Every day we had so much fun, and everybody respected everybody. And it was truly a joy, truly a joy. I'm gonna get.
Oh, don't cry.
I just love you all. Still do.
All right, pass it on to somebody else, Deb.
You too, Deb.
Thank you. So I'm gonna throw it over to my JoJo, my little JoJo dancer.
Well, thank you, Mom. Okay, so one of my favorite memories was the first day, actually. After we did the read through, this man came over and asked me to follow him. So I said, okay. So I followed him. I thought, he's a wardrobe or something. And we got to the trailer and he was the teacher, the school teacher, which was interesting since I was 24 playing 14. And I'm like, I'm living with a guy and like, what do I have to go back to, high school for? And I go in there and he hands me the stack of 8th grade books. And I went, okay, I want to keep this job, but really, I didn't like geometry the first time around. So I called my agent. I said, they've got me doing geometry and math, tests. Get me out of this. And he said, look, all you have to do is suck it up for 6 weeks and then they can't fire you. So I pretended to be 14 and went back to school with like Heidi and Matt and the Growing Pain kids. And my second favorite experience was getting called into the office to talk to Mike. Mike, do you remember this? And you said, as I started to date the censor guy from the network, right? And I was dating Harvey. And Mike says to me, really? Like, you can go after anybody, but you have to date the guy from the network? Yeah, but then you didn't want me to stop dating him because he was letting all of our jokes like slide.
Too fun for the team.
Fudge packer line.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone is frozen on my.
So those were mine.
I was probably just jealous because I was a network censor at the beginning of my career, and I never got to date anybody above the line.
Is it a rule?
Was it a rule? I don't know. I just kind of
No.
broke into his office one day and he was very confused because he thought I was 14 too. I was like, this is all really wrong.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm going to throw it over to Heather.
Okay.
Marie.
My memory is so bad. No, I remember the audition really clearly, and I believe was it you and me, JoJo, that had to read together?
Me and Heidi.
Yeah, and it was in a long corridor. As I remember, we were kind of sitting outside, and it seemed like they were matching us together kind of haphazardly, but I guess it was all, big plan. But we had a great time together, and I just thought we nailed it. And did they tell us right there that we got the part, JoJo?
I think so.
I think they did, which is always really rare when you get to know right in the audition.
Yeah.
So, we didn't have our characters as finely drawn back then. So I didn't know I was going to be devout, so they didn't really have that penned in at the beginning. And so I really feel like the first few episodes really defined my character as being very, religious and very goody two shoes. And then the slut sisters were firmly, and then JoJo's intellectual, comedy was so cute. So I don't think we had such a great, idea of who our characters were in the very beginning, but we definitely felt like sisters from day one. Let me say to Jamie, because she was like my sister. I treated you like my little sister all the time. That's nice to see you.
Funny when you ask about that, that's literally the first thing I thought about is I didn't have any sisters and you guys were my sisters, 100%. I literally, starting this show, it was, 16, 17, 18 years old. And it was such a pivotal time. And I moved back from New York because they told us, going to get this role. And I came out and you guys were like Insta family, and the way that we treated each other, it was my sisters and my family. I really 100% remember that. And it felt really pinnacle about sort of like coming of age. And you're right, they didn't have our characters really fleshed out as much. And I started off as sort of the body one, the smart one. And then I remember being at a table reading one time and just reading a line like I really knew what it meant. And everyone just started cracking up. And apparently I had it way off. And they're like, we're changing your character. I was like, all right, that's happening.
You were hilarious, Dean.
And I honestly didn't know how funny I was, to be quite honest. I would try not to laugh because everyone was laughing and they made me laugh. And my mom kept saying, would you stop laughing? Like you're laughing through your lines. But it was, and then getting to perform and sing, the writers always kind of picked up pieces from our life and put them in the show. And that was such a joyful time to be able to express and sing and dance like that. That was a blast. So really precious times. I love it. I'm throwing it to Brookie.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's hard to know where to even start because there were so many amazing memories from that show. And I always think that it always trickles from the top. So from, Mike Sullivan to Dan Gunselman and the writers, David Kendall, and producers, Tim O'Donnell, and I'm probably getting it all wrong, but it always trickled down from the top. And they were just really, especially with the young ones of us, really were so nurturing and taking us under their wing and letting us be us, but still just really making us all a family. And I always give credit to my Harmonious because I'm telling you, she taught all of us girls how to
behave.
Always.
Nurturing,
gentle actors. And she took us and she said, you're going to be kind to every guest star we ever have, because when they're comfortable, it only makes our show better. And when we come in on Wednesday and all of the cameramen are here, you're going to say hello to every single one of them. And you're going to treat them with respect, and everybody is equal. And I will never forget that. And I went on to do 2 more ABC sitcoms, never had that experience again. And I don't think I ever will. If I ever do a sitcom again or whatever.
Deb also told us, live like you're a starving actor. Do not spend your money because you never know when you'll need that. So don't go buying that new car, Brookie. No.
That's the first thing I did. Remember, Deb, I went out and I got my
you get?
I got the Toyota, with a top down, right?
Oh, right. What was that?
Well, we were shopping at BMW and I said, no, forget it. And Deb was like, no, Toyota's fine.
Oh, Jojo, you remember that time when we were at IKEA?
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
That one.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I didn't tell them.
No. Do you remember?
We should throw it to Evan because he was.
Yes.
You were semi-regular, Evan.
I throw it to Evan.
Hey. Well, it was a fantastic experience. I'd worked a little bit like Bill on Growing Pains, and it was time for me to go off to college, and I went to Berkeley, but Mike said, come on over to this new show, Just the 10 of Us, do some episodes, and then it kept going. So I dropped out of UC Berkeley for a little while after I was shuttling back and forth, and just taking UCLA extension classes to keep up with my credits. And
what were you going to do?
You mean at Cal?
No, yeah. What was your endeavor to eventually?
I got a degree in economics. I was
okay.
good. I was good in math. Everybody from my high school goes to college. I had no appreciation for momentum at the time. We're wiser in terms of the biz. I would have just kept working. In fact, when Just the 10 of Us ended, I went right back up to Cal. I was like, I got to graduate in 4 years. I don't know why that was in my mindset. For getting into a good university, I was pretty dense in the not so wise one. I had good math scores, but I maybe should have stayed in town, because I remember after I graduated from college, I came back to town and I took a meeting with my old agent, and they said, "What have you done lately?"
Oh no.
I was like, "What? What?
Wow.
I've got some credits. They're like, I don't think we can do anything for you." I was flabbergasted, but fortunately, I spent all my money from just the 10 of us on cocaine and houses. And
Two?
so I just started again from the bottom. It was great. David Kendall, Kevin Abbott, the Weinbergers, they all told me it's going to last forever. Just spend it. Just live your life. Gunselman Steve Marshall said the same. Michael said, no, that's not the way to do it, but I didn't listen to him. I have great memories of Matt and Heidi. I wish they were here too. Deborah's red boots.
Oh yes.
Your red boots.
Red boots.
And it was such a great special experience.
Oh.
Hey, since
You were so funny. Too.
And it was nice being on the soundstage right next to Growing Pains, so I could still coach everybody in acting on Growing Pains while acting on Just the 10 of Us. So that was really good and easy. Mike said, "I just want you in the area to help everybody out because you're amazing." Amazing. That's how I remember it. But Mike, do you remember it differently?
I remember telling many actors, "Don't buy a house, don't buy a car."
Yeah, we got none of
Maybe
us.
we're sold into syndication. Then you spend the money.
That's what happened to me. I went to him.
Remember
I said, Mike,
who have
yeah.
in is it the Madman finale?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh,
And I'm watching the Madman finale, and I go, "Oh my God, I know this guy." And you've got like the ultimate. This is the meaning of the whole show speech.
Yeah, you were so
Piece of awesome in that the end of the series there.
Yeah, Mike.
Mike, you again.
Hey, since Jason and Jeremy don't have any memories from the show, does anyone have any memories of working with them on the show? What it was like working with a couple twins?
Nothing has changed then.
I directed the first episode
actually,
where
you
they
guys
had
were
to
pretty good.
speak.
That's not true. They were very nice. They were very
Yes, I was just kidding. I was joking.
I know you were. I spent more time with them than anybody, really. And they were darling. They were quiet. And I mean, I thought they were lovely. They were
David,
sweet.
what episode was that?
I directed an episode called Smoke 'Em If You Got 'Em. And it was the first episode that I had ever directed in my life that got me into the DGA. And I still thank all you guys for actually listening to me, because I went down there to the stage scared to death. Would they listen to me? And they did listen to me. And also thank Mike for hiring me and giving me that job on Growing Pains and on Just the 10 of Us. Yay, Mike Sullivan. I did the episode, and Baby Harvey had a line. He had to say Sherry smoked, because they weren't sure that
Really?
Coach and the wife did not know who was smoking that cigarette down in the attic or the basement. And finally it was Sherry who smoked, and Baby Harvey had to have the line Sherry smoked, and it sounded like Sherry moke, but we all declared victory. And
after how many takes did that take? Like,
I don't know.
Oh,
Tape is
okay.
cheap, so I don't remember. Mike, do you remember?
Okay.
No, I do remember one day we were doing a little block and tape, I think with Heidi, where we were rehearsing a scene. And I was going through her motivation and all these things. It was an episode I was directing. We break to go to the next scene. Deb comes over to me. She says to me, "Mike, she's a child actor. You just tell her how you want her to do it. Just say, do it this way. Say it this way." How you direct good. Who's right?
Oh, true.
Well, I imagine that's how you did it. You just said, "Say it like this."
Yeah.
And you did it then.
Sherry moke.
Mike faster.
Mike or David, any memories that you want to share?
Mike, you go.
Well, I just want to say David did a great job directing.
Yes,
He
David.
did.
Oh, thank you.
I think anybody,
I mean,
anybody
and-
What have you directed now, David?
How many episodes of
Month?
television?
Yeah.
A couple hundred. Now.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and
You know,
I'll just jump in. we know that Coach Lubbock's character was first in an episode of Growing Pains. And even though I was a lowly story editor, I got to write that episode. And it was of a blustery coach who was taking over a French class that Mike Seaver was sneaking in. And I remember the first line was, "Hi, I'm Coach Lubbock, and I'll be taking over French Trois while Mademoiselle Goldstein is a little bit under the weather." And the way he did it was much funnier than me. And we all said, this guy is really funny. And how many episodes did Bill do before the spinoff came? Mike, Bill, do you guys remember?
I'm not, maybe 6. You know what? I almost didn't go to, here's what happened on that, is that you guys had another episode about, I think it was Alan and his reunion or something.
Yeah,
and there was some sort of part there. It was a small part. And my agent calls it, you gotta get this little small part. And I almost didn't go. I almost thought, nah, I don't want to go to the, but this wasn't the Coach Lubbock part. This was this other part. So I went, it was right down the street over there by Warner Brothers. I lived in North Hollywood. So I went over there and auditioned for this other part, which I didn't get. And then what happened was a few weeks later, my agent called and said, oh, they have this other part of this coach that you can just have. You don't have to audition. And I thought, well, shit, that's great. And so that's what happened from that. I almost didn't go to that. And when they say sometimes, you know, just because you walk away and don't get the part, doesn't mean you don't walk away and get the part, but maybe get another one.
You know, it was Alan Thicke who suggested you to us. And you
Yes.
had worked with him on Wood Tonight, where he was a writer-producer, as I recall.
Yes, he did. I owe a lot of my career to Alan.
And he said, this guy is really funny, you know, and he wanted you in to audition for that one episode. And then when the coach part came up, that was kind of a no-brainer. And it follows from an old Brandon Tartikoff dictum. If you want to succeed in half-hour comedy, hire funny actors.
So,
well, thank you.
A couple of the girls mentioned things that Deb taught them throughout the show. Did anyone else learn anything that helped them in either their acting career or in life from someone else, or just from being on the show in general?
I don't know if I learned anything. I taught Dennis Haysbert how to act, and I taught Alan Thicke's son, Robin, how to sing. A lot of wisdom. Matt Shackman, I taught him how to direct. I was basically the go-to guy. Did other people learn from other people?
No, just you, Evan. Just
Why didn't you help me?
I learned one lesson. I have such a brutal memory of putting my foot in my mouth and making a mistake. So one thing I learned from the show was to be truly appreciative and keep my mouth shut. It was so sweet. Mike et al. Brought me over from Growing Pains, and I started off as just a recurring guest star, and I became, I guess, like a fractional regular or something. And we went into a table read, and I just still didn't feel like I was a regular. So I looked to the girls, and they'd all comment about the script, and I thought, oh, I should relax. I should feel more comfortable. I should talk about my character. And so I guess before we officially did the read, I started commenting about my character. And I guess I was saying, oh, I don't think Doosler would do that. I wonder if that's in Doosler's character. And so the next script revision came through, and it had notes, and it was written in the script. It's like, and if Doosler doesn't like this character, he could be written out of the script. And I was done. And I don't know if I called up Diane Young, the casting director, or emailed somebody, but I was like, oh, no. I'm so appreciative. It's just because I'm nervous and I don't know how to be here and just be relaxed. I'm so sorry. But it was a big lesson to make sure that the tone is right. And if you're not sure how your tone's going to come off, maybe just listen, just be appreciative, be quiet, take your direction. But
do you remember that, Mike or David, writing that in?
No.
I don't.
Oh, okay. I have the script in the garage. I kept it as a memory.
No, we'd like to see it.
It was brutal. I was like, this is one of the top 3 moments in my life where I had a regret. because I couldn't have been more appreciative to be working this much at this rate at this age, and to have a misperception out there. It temporarily broke my heart. So I just want to say again, Mike, Growing Pains and Just the 10 of Us, what a special opportunity, and thank you.
Yes.
It was
I think we all can echo that.
early starting period. And then Jamie was very verbally and physically abusive. That's just another memory. Everybody else
You
was
asked me to. Wait.
that was a pre-Me Too kink thing.
Oh, I have many memories of Jamie trying to crack me up in front. There was one episode where we had sheets up hanging, they were drying, and just before they go, okay, rolling, she would lean over and whisper filthy things into my ear. Yes, I don't even.
Oh my God.
I'm certain I got it from you, Bill, because some of your outtakes will never be seen. They were
I know that. But she would try to crack me up.
Can you imagine what would happen to our show today with the Me Too movement? We were just one big.
It would be docile though now.
Yeah.
It was all Frank Bonner. We were perfect. It was just Frank Bonner.
I know. It's true.
Anybody ever hear from Frank?
I don't.
Of late?
No, I haven't either.
I don't see him or anything. I tried to keep contact with him, but I think he moved on or something.
I texted with Dennis Haysbert a couple of months ago.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
he's doing great.
I don't know if this is a question mostly for David or Michael, but since this is a TGIF podcast, when the show was, I guess, a couple seasons in, that's when TGIF started, and this became a show that was the anchor of TGIF. Was that a big deal for you guys, or was there a lot of talk about this TGIF thing with Just the 10 of Us?
Well, to go back into the broadcast environment of that time, I mean, the Fox network had not started yet, I don't think, or maybe had just started with one night of programming. And Friday night was Dallas and the Dukes of Hazzard, and they were powerhouses. Dukes of Hazzard, when I was a young executive at ABC, we were at a meeting before the upfronts looking at, the pilots and looking at what might get on the fall schedule, and they were looking at what the other networks were doing on various nights. And we get to Friday night, and they research people outline the ratings performances of the shows. And then as they were going on to the next night, the number 2 guy at the network says, go back one slide. He said, go back to Dukes of Hazzard. He said, do you see that demo, kids 2 to 12? They have an 80 share, kids 2 to 12.
Oh,
if there's an 80 share of something, you pay attention. So with Dukes of Hazzard, they had the young audience. With Dallas, they had everybody. It was a very tough environment. But if you're a new show and you can improve on the network's performance in a time period, you don't have to win the time period to thrive if you counter program in such a way that you're giving the audience something that may not have been there. And I think they moved Dallas ultimately from 9 to 10 and Dukes of Hazzard from 8 to 9, and it didn't do as well. So there was a little bit of thing there. And TGIF, I think, was basically a marketing ploy to help the network bracket and promote the night. Fridays and Saturday nights tended to be what programmers called bimodal, older and younger. Young adults and teenagers are usually out. As the evening gets later, you may get more of them watching. That's why Love Boat and Golden Girls were on Saturday, because that older audience was available and watching. So, the opportunity was there to not beat Dallas, but to do well enough against it that you've counter programmed successfully and you've got a beachhead, and you're not number 3 in the 3 network world, you're number 2.
So we all know that the show was canceled without really anyone knowing that it was coming to an end. We've talked to Bill and we've talked to Brooke about this, but was there an idea of where the show was going to go, or was there an end to the show planned at any point, or was it kind of just like, let's see what happens with this thing?
Nobody thought about finales in those days. I mean, outside of MASH, I don't know if that finale had happened yet. Mary Tyler Moore had happened. I mean, usually you just want to go, and most shows get canceled. Most shows don't live out a 7 to 10 year life. So there was never any thought about an end. Nobody had any inkling about an end. Planning for an end. I think I have some notes here somewhere in my files of story ideas for the next season. I think we talked to a couple of, had some pitches for freelance writers. I know we had talked to Jamie Widows, the director's agent, about Jamie coming back and doing a bunch of episodes. And Jamie was very encouraged and happy about that. So, no, the end was a surprise.
So I don't know
But
if
at this point in my life, you know, I look back at that. What I look on is the blessing to be able to work for these people. It was such a happy set, as Deb said.
So
and
happy.
Everybody was a joy to work with, the crew and the cast. And, you know, I'm glad we had that time together.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful that they had to cancel us.
Bob Iger. Yeah, was there ever going to be a Nightmare on Elm Street, just the 10 of us crossover?
There should be. There should be.
Like every other cast member had been on Nightmare on Elm Street.
I know. They're going to reboot that next year. It's going to be really scary and then funny. It's going to start scary and funny, or vice versa. I don't know. I think Dave's writing that. I think I heard you were writing that script for Nightmare.
Yeah, right now it's scary.
So we wanted to play a game with you guys. Raise your hand if you either have paper to write down characters' names or a dry erase board or anything. Perfect. That's enough, I think. Yeah.
Piece of paper, anything.
Paper.
Yeah, anything. So what we're gonna do? This is gonna be kind of like high school yearbook superlatives type thing. We're gonna ask a question, and then everyone's gonna either write down the character's name or the actress's name, or staff member's name that you feel like best fits the role of this. Okay. So the first one, Travis and I are gonna go back and forth on this too. Who was most likely on the show to forget their lines? And then you can just hold it up whenever you have it ready.
Gosh, that's not nice. That's a really mean line.
The twins.
And that's the appropriate answer for this question.
Not Heidi. Jason. Heather. Heather says Heather. Brooke says Brooke.
I was going to say me.
Michael says no one.
No one.
Evan said Frank.
Evan says Frank Bonner.
Bill's got the dog.
Yeah.
What was his
Heidi
name?
knew everyone.
Hooter. Yeah, Hooter, it's a dog.
No, Brooke is lying. Brooke is lying because Brooke had the script memorized on Wednesday. Thank you. That's better. Okay.
But you know about Heidi. Remember, Heidi knew her lines.
Everyone's line.
Every line. Heidi knew every line. She didn't. She never made it into the year-end bloopers because she never
messed up. And she knew the entire script with the stage directions.
Yeah.
She was like, what do we say? Deb used to say, you know, you're not 6, you're 40, get a job.
I want to tell you too that you messed up your line.
So
exactly.
Since we brought up Heidi, she wanted to be on here, but she doesn't have any connections. She's out at Yellowstone Park with the family right now. But Travis has been texting with her throughout the day, and she did have a little message that she wanted to share with the group.
Yeah, she was really sad that she couldn't make it, but she wanted to share this picture. Hold on, I'm still learning how to use Zoom, even though I use it all day. Give me 1 second. I'm going to just share this picture.
Ask me any question, you know I'm proficient in this.
So here's a picture of Heidi and her husband. They're at Yellowstone.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
She just wanted to say,
She's beautiful.
Oh, what a beautiful
just
couple.
want to give everybody her love, hugs, and well wishes. And she was going to try to jump on. She still might. I'm still kind of texting with her right now. It's been a while since I've heard from her, so my guess is she's probably not in the best of places. But she wanted to send this picture of her and her husband there, and then just to prove where they are. That is a picture she sent me of Old Faithful.
Did they bring a professional photographer with them to Old Faithful?
No. There are some pretty amazing pictures that she has sent me of her and her family. I didn't want to post any that had kind of her kids and the rest of her family in here, but there's a great picture of her and a buffalo in the distance. So she's having a good old time in Yellowstone right now.
That's great. That's so great.
Cool. So I'm going to ask a little bit of a friendlier question, I hope.
Thank you.
Who was most like their character on the show?
So write it down. We'll share everyone's when they have it ready to go. Who was most like their character in real life?
Well,
That's hard.
No.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Nash, everybody sort of.
I'm gonna say
I
Bill.
would say that too.
Yeah.
Not
Caroline?
Jamie and not
Bill's just gonna hold up the dog for every one of these.
The computer is the answer for everything.
Heather says
That ain't that the truth.
Heather feels like everyone was like themselves, which is awesome.
I didn't hear the question. I was off for a while. I don't know what happened.
Oh, Deb, we were wondering who was like most likely or most like their actual character in real life.
Oh.
A coach was like Bill without the swearing.
Yeah.
And Deb was like
Deb
all
was-
of our
Deb
real
was,
mother too.
yeah, and Deb too. It's
Yeah.
a toss up.
This
Bill.
is definitely a
were like
majority
the-
of Bill on this one, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill for sure.
So who had the weirdest groupies? Did any of you guys have groupies that would come or like run into you in public or anything like that?
It was all the girls with the feet
The
fetish.
foot fetish guy. Yeah.
The prisoner foot fetish.
Look at Mike's laughing.
Prisoner foot fetish guys.
We even went so far to do a professional photo shoot of all of our feet, and then we sent them 3 big, framed pictures. And I think, did we write our names on our toes? And
Yeah, we
sent-
did. We did.
Yeah, we sent them
we
to the
gave that to-
producer.
Yeah.
It was framed in the office, if I recall.
That guy might have been one of the staff. I don't know.
Yeah, it disappeared at one point. From the
Always coming. I got another letter. Somebody wants a picture of my feet.
Me too.
Just because I'm thinking of it right now, when Brooke was on the show, she talked about when all the girls went to Dodger Stadium and got to sing the national anthem. Jamie or Heather or JoJo, do you guys have any memories of that?
Okay, first of all, I was supposed to get married on that weekend. My husband and I were going to elope. And so I called Mike or somebody, I forget, and said, this weekend I might not be available. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're available because you're singing at Dodger Stadium. And I'm like, what? And so I canceled all the plans I had made to go to Catalina and elope and ended up, getting all outfitted in those little outfits that Judith
Red, white, and blue.
Western wear. Like,
that really is one of the most. Yeah, what a great memory. I never will forget singing at Dodger Stadium. It was so thrilling.
I have a video.
Anybody have a copy of it?
Oh,
Yes,
Bill
I
does.
do.
Right.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
Bill, could you send it along?
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
I just
That-
remember the feedback. They never told us that there was going to be this feedback. So we would sing, and then 6 seconds later, we'd heard that coming back at us, and we were already 6 seconds ahead of the song. And they were like, well, nobody told us about that kind
And
of.
our pictures. And our picture with Tommy Lasorda is he's really thin. It's like the 1 week where Tommy Lasorda is like 150 pounds. No one believes it that it's Tommy. I'm like, that's really him. It's me and him.
And then they gave
Or the
us
one
like
picture
one rehearsal.
of you, JoJo.
We had one rehearsal with the old organist, remember? And I asked for another, and she said, "Nah, kid, you're fine. See you out on the field, right?" And right when I went out, somebody told me I wasn't smiling enough, and then I should smile during the song. No, if you watch the gag reel, I'm ridiculously smiling. Stupid, big, ridiculous smile through the whole thing. I look like an idiot in this scene.
They blackmailed her with that picture, big time. Oh no!
Mike's got the picture.
Oh, I love that.
Mike, lower it a little bit.
Pull it back so we can see it better.
I'm not seeing him.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah, there it is.
That's right. Wow.
Oh, and we were allowed to get one person's autograph. I remember they're like, if you want one of the players, so sign sign you a ball. And I got stupidly Mike Marshall. I don't know why I got his autograph. I could have had, Fernando Valenzuela, but no, he was cute. I mean, that's all I picked him.
I got
Heather,
Singer from the Go-Go's, Mike.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Say that again, Mike.
What were you saying, Mike?
Mike Marshall dated a singer from the Go-Go's. Remember that?
I was just going to ask Heather if your hot special effects guy forgave you. Did it all work out?
Well, actually, then, yeah, since we didn't elope, then we decided we better have a really normal wedding. So we ended up getting married on March 24th that year, and it
Santa
worked.
Monica Pier.
Yeah, it was fine, and it was fun. I'm glad I didn't elope. In retrospect, I'm glad.
Cool.
All right, so next question, and this isn't going to be a cast name, so feel free to use fingers if you don't have a blank piece of paper. If the show had kept going, how many more children do you think Elizabeth would have had total?
Total? They don't have more than 10 fingers.
0. We got Brooke saying 0, Joanne saying 5. So we're
Deb was done.
She had her tubes tied. Didn't you have your
We
tubes
would have
tied?
had to change the
Just the
name.
15 of us?
Just the 15 of
Name of the
us.
show. We would have
4.
had
I said 4 too. I think she would have even started adopting and bringing in
Yeah.
farm animals.
Oh,
and-
yeah. You probably would have done that.
The more the merrier. Like everybody's going to help out. The more we have.
I mean,
And then
the
the
show
movie
ended
would
with
start
a
to
new
happen.
farm animal, so that makes sense, right?
That's true.
I think
I
we
had no children at the time. So, I went from just newly married to having all these daughters, and to this day I consider these young ladies my daughters, because I never had any, but we had a son, so this was all foreign to me. Kids and dogs and all
And
that.
we drove him crazy.
I had lived 20 years in comedy clubs and comedy condos, and in fact I had to stop thinking when I got the show. I had to stop thinking about the pressure to book myself in comedy clubs. I had to remind myself, oh, wait a minute, you have a job. I used to tell people, that studio that we shot at, that was literally the closest, not the studio, but the stage, was the closest stage to my house in all of Los Angeles. Because I lived right on the border of North Hollywood there on Camarillo. And a couple times I rode my bike and I take my lunch, and I got to take naps sometime during the day, and I tell people I'm back in 3rd grade.
I rode my bike to school, to work.
But that building was literally the closest to my house. I thought, gee, God, I'm
You
lucky.
lived across the street too, didn't you, Brooke?
I did. I lived really close. I had moved from Palos Verdes, which is where I grew up. I was going to NYU, and I dropped out of NYU, and then I went back home. And then when we were shooting the 6 episodes, they were building an apartment building. I was like, I'm going to live right there so I can sleep until like 7:45 and throw some sweats on and be at work at 8. And then I bought a house right before we got canceled against Mike Sullivan's. I know. Why did I do that?
All right, this might be the last one. Who was the most likely to break character and just start laughing in the middle of shooting?
Oh, that's
a hard one too.
Okay, I'll go.
I know I did. I know Bill did. I totally did. I laughed all the time. I'm just gonna
Oh, what about our story?
I know.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to take that back.
Elizabeth is holding up every name that she has. We've got a Brooke, we've got a Jamie, we've got a Heather.
I think
Evan-
I'll go with Jamie too.
Evan, who is Bill Irwin? I don't even know who that is.
Bill Irwin was a frequently recurring guest star on both Growing Pains and Just the 10 of Us, and he would play different characters. They just bring him back as another random different character, and I loved it.
He was about 107. He was about 107 years old.
107?
Yeah, easily.
I have to say,
Their credits. He had credits for television and radio.
He was amazing.
Yeah, he was great.
another character that we had who I grew to love deeply because Brookie and I would go to horror movie conventions all the time with him is Sid Haig, who played our janitor.
Oh, yes.
And so at the horror conventions, people are lined up because, he played these just totally depraved characters and, everyone loved him so much. And then I would stand in and remind everyone that he played the janitor on Just the 10 of Us.
Like the dancing
ruin the ambiance.
happy
Yeah, this happy,
Episode, he got to sing My Favorite Things, didn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
the talent show
Yeah.
episode.
That's right.
Sid Haig singing My Favorite Things was a comedy moment for sure.
Oh, such a great moment.
I believe.
So fun.
Didn't we used to have a grandma and then we killed her?
Maxine. Oh no, who was
She played the
Maxine's daughter?
she played the
I
nun.
ate Sundays for
The old nun.
breakfast. I remember.
Sister Ethel. That was Maxine.
Sister, yeah.
But in the first pilot, was it Theodosia Goodrich, Mike? I don't know why that's name's popping into my head, but
I remember that name.
Not ringing a bell.
Yeah,
And
your
she-
parents are on to you. That's
And
the line I love that she's like, you better
and she
go
just
home.
sat there. I think it was. I think Dan and Steve had seen a play where an old woman character was just sitting and not commenting, but just kind of doing takes. So I think from that affection for that thing in a play, that ended up on stage. And I remember during notes, David Sachs, the studio executive, was about to bring it up, and either you or Dan or Steve said, "Yeah, we got it," and that was the last time we saw her. But it didn't work. It didn't work.
Is that when Heather, you were the nun with the Dominica Nika Sana?
Yes. That was my favorite role.
That was
Dominique. And running, we went, when there's this scene where I'm running down the mission, the San Fernando mission, that beautiful colonnade, and that was a perfect episode as far as I'm concerned. That was
the only Emmy award-winning episode of the show.
Beautiful episode.
Oh wow!
I didn't know that.
David, how many sets were in that episode? We
Hero?
had 3 stages and multiple physical locations, like Mission San Fernando. And went out and directed that sequence. I was directing nominally the studio sequences. We did an exterior. Kirk and Tracy walked through a shot there. Rich Reinhardt's in a shot.
Right.
Rich Reinhardt.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think there was 10 or 12 sets.
Oh, Rich.
The guy who won the Emmy for that was George Stevie, the DP, and he said, "This is the Ben-Hur of sitcoms."
So Mike, let me ask you.
That season, I think so. Budget-wise, if Growing Pains hadn't been a big hit, we never would have gotten away with that stuff.
So Mike, let me ask you a question. Everybody's always asking me, when's it going to come out in DVD? When is it going to come out in DVD? And I've always heard the big problem was the music rights. And I guess nobody ever thought of buying it into perpetuity, or did you ever see that being
had
resolved?
The right to perpetuity cleared for all shows in that era for the platforms that existed then, which were all analog. So when the digital platforms came along, that's a whole new legal set of clearances, and it's not just music, it's everything. There was a point where the old Dean Martin shows were being sold through direct marketing and TV ads, and I thought, well, my lawyer knows something about the direct marketing business. I'll ask him to go to his best friend was the president of Warner's TV at that time. Said, I'll have him ask him about giving me the DVD rights to just the 10 of us, because they're not doing anything with it anyway.
Right.
And Warner Brothers got back to him and said, my lawyer, and said, we don't want Mike to lose a lot of money. And once he pays for clearing the rights for these shows, there's no way he's going to make a profit on this thing. I remember when the first 2 seasons of Growing Pains just dribbled out on DVD, and they had to do whole seasons. I said, well, why don't you put one out with the Leo and the Brad Pitt episodes and that kind of thing? No, we just do seasons. That's what Walmart and the big box stores want. And the last 5 seasons just didn't come out. And then finally, they spent several $1 million clearing the rights for digital exhibition. Those last 5 episodes, which allowed them to do DVDs, and also allowed them, if they sold the syndication package to a station, the station wanted to stream those reruns on its site, its website, they could do that as well. So it was, it was the new digital world really that complicated issues. Now, having said all that, you don't need a 100-episode package anymore in streaming.
Right.
I mean, on the Fuller House reboot, they're going to end up with, I don't know, 50 maybe. In the old days, that would have been, like us, considered not enough to go syndicate. But some streaming platform may take an interest in just the 10 of us. Then the next challenge is we're on videotape, analog videotape. Getting a good digital transfer on that is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
That's maybe why you don't see. Bill's very technically savvy. He knows this stuff. You don't see talents per show around very much. The way to do it, the way Nick always did it, is they bought a 1-inch tape machine and they broadcast it from that. So they did it analog. And that
They broadcast that? They
didn't make it far less money, by the way, than doing these digital transfers. The digital transfer on Growing Pains, I think, just doesn't look good at all.
You can never get any better than what the original thing is, and you're never going to get 480 lines up to 1,080 or anywhere close to it. So it's never going to. Plus, it's going to be in a box. Plus, it's going to be in a box and not 16:9. So
Dan has them all on 3/4, right, Mike?
I'm sorry?
Does Dan has them all on 3/4?
I think David does as well, don't you, David?
I have the Growing Pains, the first 6 season on 3/4.
Oh, okay. I think Dan has the entire. JoJo would know because that's where we were getting them from.
Wasn't Dan digitizing them? Wasn't Dan digitizing them all?
It was. You'll get a better quality look there than you will making a copy from a VHS to a DVD, but it still won't be as good as getting it from the original 1-inch tapes. No. Not even close. It's going to be dimmer. Bill knows this stuff.
Now, there's a guy bootlegging them.
Oh, yeah.
There's some guy, and amazingly, he's in the United States. I don't know who he is, but I had somebody, and now I had a lot of the half-inch VHS copies, but they were right in the masters. They had the breaks for the commercials and everything, so they were unedited. And when they went on USA Network, they clipped the shows a minute or two at the beginning, at the end.
I had it in my contract at Warner's that I supervised
the bootleg.
Oh, look, there's a bootleg.
I just got a phone call from somebody at Warner Brothers saying, we've sold it to the USA Network. So I called up the guy at Warner's Distribution. I said, well, I understand you've sold the 10 of the syndication package. Who's editing it? He said, we just gave it to some editor and he did it. He said, and I said, well, how many runs of the show do they have? How many times can they show it? He said, they can show it till the sprocket holes break apart. I mean, he was using old stuff. But it wasn't exactly handled with care. And what they would usually do is they just hire some editor and he would delete the first scene in Act 2. That was usually a story recapitulation of some kind.
So Heidi and Matt scene, little Heidi and Matt scenes usually were the first scene of Act 2, or what?
Yeah.
Is that the structure?
I bought
Deb,
these.
Do you remember what the term is
there
that
you
a
go.
DVD?
Yeah, these are crappy DVDs that I bought at like a collectibles convention. The guy had all kinds of bootleg stuff. And it's from, they were taped off the USA when it was syndicated, and they made crappy DVDRs.
And I made 12 cents off of it.
Yeah, I'll send you 12 cents, Bill, because I think I'm behind on that.
So
I remember is these studios now are such big multinational corporations. The libraries that a Warner Brothers or a Comcast own, Disney, are so vast. They don't even, nobody there knows everything they've got, in their staff.
They spared no expense.
No labels or anything. So obviously,
I think we should break in and get our tapes and take them away for take care of them. They're sitting in the dustbin of history.
So we can't do a Just the 10 of Us show episode, anything, without talking about the Lubbock Babes. One of you has to have a good story to share about all the dancing and singing that happened in that restaurant.
Hi. Bye.
Hi. Bye. Oh my God.
No stories?
I think Jamie was definitely the best singer. I mean,
yes,
by hands down, and we all knew that from the get-go. And there was no
I clung to her
at all. We were hoping she would get all the songs, and but they had to pass them around a little bit. But she could just she had such a beautiful voice, so we were lucky.
My favorite was JoJo doing Sweeney Todd.
Oh, so good.
The demon butcher of Street Fleet.
Fleet Street. That was a good one.
Street.
Well, Heather, you killed a guy on one of your episodes dancing in front of him.
Yeah, I guess that guy keeled over. I didn't write any of that. I was always really embarrassed, but I'm I come to work prepared to do my job, so.
You kill who you need to kill.
I had to kill him. I killed him with kindness.
So to wrap up.
I remember the first one of those we did. You guys, almost the whole morning with the choreographer and with Steve Dorff, the composer. There was very little rehearsal. And we made the mistake of doing the first show live singing to track rather than we really piled on the level of difficulty on that one.
I know. They were all live, weren't they? We didn't pre-record.
No,
just did a pre-recording.
So we were thinking.
Oh, okay.
The greatest thing you did for us was to get us a vocal coach. I remember that. It was so helpful. I was like,
but it was a lot of fun. And Johnny Dark, I think, Bill, did you introduce us to Johnny, another stand-up comedian?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I introduced you, but he, I mean, I knew him, but I don't think no, I think you guys found him on your own.
Oh, we found him on Growing Pains. That's right, David. He was the DJ at the Dance 2 party.
Oh, right. He was the DJ, and he showed up at the Jane Powell wedding episode too, if I recall, or the food fight episode. I remember him.
No, that's right, with Matt Perry.
Yeah.
That one.
So to wrap things up with this, guys, I know everyone's had to have thought, like, where would their character have gone if there were a few more episodes of the show? So we talked to Brooke about this when she was on the show, and I think you said that you'd probably go to some stripper university or something like that. But did anyone else also think about where their character might have ended up?
Well, Marie could have gone to the convent for a couple of years, but then I think she would have turned out just like her mom and had 10 kids or something like that. Married a nice boy like, Jews. Someone from her Catholic high school, they would have reconnected at the pizza parlor, and they probably would have fallen madly in love, gotten married first, and then had the kids after the marriage. Like the way you're supposed to do it.
Right?
I think I would have cut an album and tried to be a rock star or something.
I think I would have.
And there would have been the challenge of continuing to present Joe as a teenager as the show extended.
Oh, man.
What was that?
Oh.
What?
Well, I said, given your advanced age when we started, continuing to present you as a teenager would have been an ongoing challenge.
They started already, no makeup, jumpers, pigtails. It felt like every year I was getting younger.
I remember I was always amazed. I was like, you're 24 playing 14. That's nuts. That's incredible.
25, 26, 27, yeah.
Yeah, that's hats off, JoJo.
Hold it off.
But before we go, can I ask Jeremy and Jason to say Sherry smoked just so I could hear it cleanly?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Sherry smoked.
All right. Jason?
Yeah.
Jason?
Sherry smoked.
Thank you so much.
I think that was actually, I think he was the one.
That's helped me so much. That helps me so much.
Say the line, or
I don't
Jason
remember.
or Jeremy say the line? Do you know?
It's lost. It's lost to history.
It's
lost to history, bro. It's lost to history.
Well,
I don't think your parents would have told you. You actually spoke.
Our parents mix this up a lot, so maybe they don't know. Yeah.
You guys,
I would like to announce that I've just signed a deal with ABC for a new sitcom called Wendy and the Butler.
Wendy.
Yeah.
We are lots of
guys, everyone, thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
being
much.
such a big part in so many people's lives. 30 years
Thank
later,
you.
we really do appreciate it.
Well, yeah, thank you so much.
for
It was great.
Thank you, guys.
Great to see all of you.
So
Yeah.
good to see you guys.
Each and every one of you.
Bye.
Love you all.
Bye.
So much.
Take care. Cool. So thanks. I'm not, like
Thank
I
you,
said,
Travis. Thank you, Steven.